How were they changed by the snowmobile?
Because they herded reindeer and their relationship with reindeer went down and they could produce.
Okay. Reindeer are semi-domesticated animals. So think of rounding up longhorns in Mexico. John Wayne did and stole them and brought them up, and then these semi-domesticated animals. And the snowmobile created a lot of noise. Allowed the men to be able to go to town to drink more often and stay longer when they went. Relative to that, to the snowmobiles, was there any way of stopping that innovation if you figured out, man, this is not good? Is there any way you could have stopped that innovation?
Maybe, I don't even know if this would work, but if you jacked the price up even higher than what it was.
Who jacked the price up?
I remember reading that.
And wondering.
Yes, because it created a socioeconomic gap already, but if you widen that, it would only be the very top of the top that can do it.
So when we want people to quit smoking, we tax and drink less, we tax the hell out of it, right? And so Catherine's idea was, let's tax the hell out of those snowmobiles and make them to where people can't afford them. Okay, what do you think of that? If you're the person that would like to have a snowmobile who doesn't have one.
It might put it off for a while, but
eventually you'll buy a used one.
Well, they talk about selling their reindeer to afford the snowmobiles.
I'll find some way, but the idea that, think of this technology, man, this is great. This is really cool. Like you're denying is, yeah, bad things will happen, but gosh, anyway.
I don't know, because you think of the benefits, like it's less work.
There could be there's some great benefits, but it completely destroyed their culture.
They're really, really dangerous.
And they talked about that, where they had to stand up on them and you hit rocks and.
People in danger. Real scared of.
I'm not. I'm more brain injury.
Yeah. Well, again, I'll take the ATV as an example. Very, very dangerous. That replaced a three-wheeler, which was very dangerous, which replaced the horse, which was dangerous only if you're in competition. Okay. 15, you get some windfall profits because you adopt earlier. Okay. So those people that adopt earlier, like hybrid corn, canola, whatever it is, they get some windfall profits. They got profits before other people did. 16, the old world Amish reject technology for both our answer, I guess, are right. But mostly they didn't know what would happen, but it's also true that those things may have contributed to the breakdown of society. I sometimes use this example, but for those that live east of Tulsa over the Locust Grove area, if you'll go over that area, okay, they've decided within their local Amish and Mennonite communities that the ground was so tough they couldn't use horses to plow, and they decided we are going to adopt the innovation of the tractor, but just the tractor. Okay, they decided. And now those tractors are used some for transportation, but in general what they try and do is they try and reject technology, and they would reject the Ski-Doo snowmobile. And so you'd say, if the Lapps were Amish, they might have rejected for religious reasons, okay, the snowmobile. Okay. Is that on there somewhere? Or are you just checking bean prices? You just go ahead. Don't mind me anyway. The digital divide is those people that have the internet. There was this divide from people that had the internet and people that didn't have the internet. Okay? We still have in rural areas where internet is not available in their community. Everyone has internet. It's super slow. Okay, so if you come out to the house, you'll see that I've got a receiver on top of the barn that hits the transmission line, which is at CREC south of town, and then relays to the house. Last year I had to cut down a nut tree that was about this big around because it was in the way of the signal. Okay? I used a chainsaw that I've had for a while, my second generation chainsaw. But thank you for bringing that connection in. Okay? But in rural areas, can I have satellite TV? My aunt and uncle lived on the Wisconsin border, had this satellite dish that was like 8 feet across, okay, and got like 300 channels. And that was during the 70s, okay, because it's like we don't go anywhere anyway. We might as well, whatever it costs. Now we have satellite dishes like this. But certainly we have areas that haven't had internet. And for some people, some government officials, what we need to do if we're going to make things happen in rural areas, we need to provide internet service.
Hillary Communications is going to start applying for grants and try to get fiber optics in some rural areas.
The question is, who should pay for it? You know, that's the tough part. Should taxpayers pay that live in town? Should they pay so people in the rural areas have internet?
The place where I work this summer, they're like trying to do it in like rural parts of like my county, and like I live in like one of those parts, and like they came like door to door, and like we worked there, like my mom both do. What are you doing? And like they're like trying to petition on like who should pay for it, like, should we pay for it? Should taxpayers?
The more sparsely populated. So cable TV is a mile away. It's not coming because there's nobody that lives along that road. And so I don't have access, so I've got to use something else. So maybe the technology will fix that, but rural areas have had a disadvantage for the past 20 years in terms of internet, and speed is the big issue. 18, in the case of the Aborigines, what did the men do with the time they saved by using steel axes? Bueller? Slept. They slept. So if you're the change agent that brought steel axes to the Ute, what's your thought of that? Okay, I'm gonna change. I go in and I see they're using these stone axes like it's 300 BC, and say we've got steel ones. We're going to introduce this innovation because why would you introduce that innovation? Oh my gosh, it lasts longer, how more efficient the steel with the sharp blade is, and we didn't really promote the kind of good thing that we thought was going to happen is, gosh, they're going to be more productive, they're going to raise the standard of living, they're going to get to have the internet. Okay. And in the same case study, it was pointed out the steel axe was so advantageous that men in the village prostituted their wives and daughters. I want that steel axe so much.
I totally missed that part.
Oh, really?
I'm sure it's in there, but I just am like, well.
You may have glossed over it, so that can't be. To the horror of the missionaries, men began prostituting their daughters and wives in exchange for use of other people's axes. This thing is so great, that's what I'm willing to do.
Who was selling?
Well, it'd be the use. If I had one and you wanted to use it, you can guess. If I had one and you wanted to use it, say, yeah. Okay. Don't have to draw a picture for you.
No, I know.
In the case of the Irish potato famine, anyone have some idea of anyone Irish ancestry here? Yes? Any idea when your family came from Ireland? Okay. Most of them came in the late 1700s when millions of people in Ireland died of famine, starved to death. Okay. We had overpopulation. We had Ireland depending on almost the sole source of food was potatoes. Ireland is a cool, wet climate, perfect for growing potatoes. And then the Irish potato famine by the blight, the disease that came in. And the only thing that you used to eat now, you've lost the crop. You don't have anything to sell. You don't have anything to eat. People starve to death. And some people, rather than starve to death, got on a boat and came to America. Okay. Now the question is, who is to blame? Is it the Catholic Church that encouraged people to have lots of children because that's what God intended? Was it the English that didn't provide support? And I mentioned in your worksheet the Choctaw Nation, there's a famous relationship. Choctaws who had been moved on the Trail of Tears sent money to Ireland to help provide resources and food for starving Irish. Your book says it could be all these different things, but why it happened was these ships going west to east became faster when they invaded the clipper ship, and then potatoes that used to rot before they got there, now they still have the potatoes. Potatoes had diseases, and they introduced the disease to Ireland. So a bad thing that happened as a result. The insecticide DDT was to try and control mosquito populations, and that was Rachel Carson's book Silent Spring, which was the silent part was we've killed everything. We've killed the mosquitoes, but we also killed everything else. One of the problems with DDT was we took more and more, higher and higher concentrations of DDT to kill the mosquitoes because they develop a resistance. And just like Roundup resistant weeds, 2,4-D resistant weeds, nature will find a way, is what you learn from Jurassic Park. And lastly, Rogers says we can narrow the socioeconomic gap. That's the gap between the haves and have-nots. If you want to do that, change agent should.
Become less exclusive.
Okay, a little more, become less exclusive. Concentrate their efforts on the laggards and the late majority, which is completely contradictory to what we heard before is they want to spend time on elite clients, on the early adopters and early majority. So think of your 5th grade class, and I don't know in your school whether you were doing this, but I remember in 5th grade we really got multiplication down. You maybe learned it in 3rd grade or 4th grade, but you really had to know. You had to know your tables through 12s, and because you can't do division if you don't know multiplication. Okay? And at that stage, if you're a 5th grade teacher and you've got 30-some kids, who do you concentrate on? The ones that are getting it, right? Man, let's go. We got done with the 7s. Let's do the 8s tomorrow. And then the 9s, and then 12s. Man, you guys are great. Okay?
And people that are behind kind of can get lost.
Well, you don't spend time on him because so Corey's quiet. He doesn't get it. And so he's back there drawing pictures of motorcycles or something else. And Peyton's maybe misses a couple days, and then maybe he's not really engaged. And so if you don't get multiplication in 5th grade, so think of some of those students as being late adopters or laggards, and those students that really like math, they're the innovators and the early adopters and maybe even the early majority. Okay? And so you spend your time on those students that are really interested, are always there, that sit here in the T. Okay? Not there, that are right here where I see and spend time. And so that change agent the same way. I spend the time with those that I'm really into. Okay? But if I want to narrow the socioeconomic gap, or if I want to stay with my analogy, I want to narrow the gap between the kids, okay, that are getting it and the kids that aren't, where at the end of 5th grade I want everybody to know multiplication all the way through 12, then I've got to concentrate on those late adopters and those laggards. Okay, so the rest of you will go out to recess, and you kids that aren't getting it stay in. Well, that wouldn't be fair. How about those of you that are really getting it? Why don't I give you extra work? And you 5 of the 30, let's work harder on this. And it's the same. The change agent's got to work harder with those late adopters and laggards who don't want to do it, who are slower to adopt. But if you want to narrow that gap, that's where you got to spend your time. And that's hard to do. Fair? Okay, come back to your regular seats. I guess.
How do you want us to
Just forget that. We'll just give you all zeros, I guess.
Don't get so. You gotta put forth effort to get home.
Austin, you taking drugs or something? You taking pills? Every time I'd look at my watch, my dad, I'd say, what time it is it? He'd say, are you taking pills or something? I'd say, no, I want to know what time it is. I want to know when we're going to get done.
got you there, brother?
Big.
You got a friendship ring?
Yeah, it's a friendship ring. They decided to keep it.
Okay, you have innovation, but you're not first, you're number 2.
I have everybody's birthday sheet.
Thank you for being quiet.
Sure.
Hey, Will. You ready for this? Catherine has an innovation she wants to share.
Do you want to play the video
Sure.
first?
Well, you want to talk first?
Okay, it doesn't matter.
We started Grinds because our background was in baseball. We've been around chewing tobacco throughout the game growing up, and we're up one night at the end of our baseball playing careers and had this kind of silly idea to throw coffee in your mouth like chewing tobacco, and realized we could probably take it to major minor league baseball, and maybe the idea would catch on.
You know, we thought it was kind of a crazy idea coming out of college, and we decided to pursue it. Sure enough, we got some traction, and it started to grow from there. The product is essentially coffee, caffeine. We put a little bit of B vitamins in there, but the majority of the energy is just going to be derived from the caffeine. We obviously have a bunch of different flavors, so a little bit of flavoring in there as well.
It was designed specifically to help people stop chewing tobacco. And the basic premise is coffee and caffeine in lieu of nicotine and tobacco. So when we first had the idea, that was back in 2009. First batch of samples went down to spring training in 2010. And then over the next couple years, we took feedback, improved the product, got some traction. Shark Tank came along luckily in right around 2012. And in 2013, we actually did go to air. The company was shot out of a cannon. From then on out, we had a business, we had a market, and now we just needed to kind of hit the gas.
Obviously, the exposure being on the show was fantastic for the brand, the company. We've been able to grow from basically Pat and I filling orders to 20 some odd employees.
We sort of always knew that there were probably some broader uses, and now today some of those are more relevant than even baseball is. You think military, police, firefighters, hunting, fishing, outdoorsmen. Anyone who is familiar with chewing tobacco, you don't even necessarily have to use it, but is also open to the idea of using coffee and caffeine on the go.
The great part about our Grinds customers is we get customers from Wall Street, New York, all the way to truck drivers in Iowa, and it really touches a lot of different demographics because people recognize that they need to make healthier choices, and this product thankfully helps them do that.
Alright, so that was my innovation, and I actually just learned about it yesterday, and it was described to me basically as like...
I'm sorry, we'll see that in a second.
It was described to me as like Red Bull in like a dip pouch practically. And what was super handy about it is I was talking to someone that actually uses the product, and they buy it here in Stillwater at the Valero that's out like towards Boomer Lake that faces over there. And so it actually helped them quit dipping. And so they have a bunch of different flavors like mocha, black coffee. They just released a new flavor that's oyster flavored.
Oyster?
Oyster. I have no idea why you would want that at all, but that's their newest flavor. And what's really handy about it is you can either spit it or swallow it because it's just coffee. But it really does apparently keep you energized and get you through. And it's a very interesting innovation.
So a 6-can sampler for $30.
Yes.
So it says on the commercial, like a couple times, that it uses taurine. Isn't that the same thing they put in energy drinks that affects your heart in a negative way?
Yes. So like taurine, or however you say it, it's in Red Bull too. But I think I couldn't like quote you any scientific research, but I know that has been linked to some.
I'm guessing if you buy it retail, it's probably $5 a can.
Yes. It's about $5 a can. They'll deliver it to your door. There's all different kinds of coffee flavors.
So it's only in pouch shit.
It's just like in the pouch. It's like a little,
Like
it's
snooze.
completely brown.
Tristan uses those when he's like working because he loves coffee, but he can't drink it while he's working. He never did though. Just like coffee.
It was featured on Shark Tank, and they did, I can't remember which shark backed them, but they got a lot of financial backing for it.
How old do you have to be to buy that stuff?
You can be, I mean, there's not an age limit on it.
Okay, so do you think that this could promote one day? Okay, so say like a 15, 16-year-old kid goes in the store and he sees this, he's like, oh, that's cool. And then puts it in his lip, and then he decides, well, this isn't working anymore, I want to move up to tobacco.
Well, I think, how many of you at Grandma's said, I want some coffee, and Grandma said, here you go, you can have some coffee? Anybody do that?
Oh, Mom.
Okay. And so, and then Mom finally said, what the hell's wrong with you? You know, what are you doing? That caffeine, you know, you don't need that, or you shouldn't have it until you're older. And then for lots of college students, they discovered coffee when they were at college, and now they have this habit.
I
This addiction.
definitely think it might promote some double usage, but I think they're certainly targeting it to people that are already coffee consumers and want that caffeine.
Just
So-
like Kylie said, is I can't have a cup where I spill it. I get that caffeine, get that drug another way. Again, thank you so much. Again, the innovations are all not because we're trying to promote innovations, although if your snooze consumption and still apparently has tripled since last week. And there'll be some tonight at breakfast.
That was the main fault.
That it's talking the diffusion, and certainly this idea that it's something we're trying to get you to stop. It's something that I already know is much easier. It's more like innovation than anything else. You have an innovation?
It's called a Nippy Clip. It's also on Amazon, but the boutique I work at also sells them. And so like it's a thing you like put onto your keychain or whatever, and you put your lip gloss in it or like your chapstick and like holds it for you. So you don't have to like worry about looking together. When I come to all different styles.
It goes. You put it on your
Yeah,
keychain.
it's
So is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a cool
It
video.
fits for those people that chew tobacco, use grind, and use snooze because your lips get chapped, and so you adopt that. It's a contingent innovation. Yeah, right. Okay. Bonus points. Talk.
Can I talk about an innovation now too? I have a really cool one, and I've been waiting for a week to tell you about it because I don't know. It's appropriate, but it's not.
It's not that harness lingerie thing that showed up.
I'm looking it up. So, it doesn't have a name though. I'm just going to describe it to you. So you know how a Volkswagen key, you push the button and the key pops out?
Yes. The actual key.
Yes.
Yes.
To technically hide the key. So I work in a place, I work on script, right? And so people come in and do stupid things. And we have to kick them out if they do stupid things.
Yes.
So this guy flips out a key and it's a vape. But he has like special pods he puts in it, and it's like weed. But to be able to hide that, he puts it on his key ring and it looks like a Volkswagen key. So they invented this to hide the fact
To
that
hide his
they-
drug use.
Yes.
Very
And I was like, man, you got a new car, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, Katie, and like clips it to me. I was like, that's cool. And I was like, that's not cute.
Very interesting. Like half point.
Yeah.
So, I just, since Catherine mentioned about Shark Tank, if you're a Shark Tank follower or like watching it, there's every Shark Tank episode and every product is at this website, which is kind of interesting. And so if you miss them, they're not all on YouTube because ABC has been kind of careful. But I got this for Nate for his birthday. It's a insulated beer bottle holder, and your bottle of beer, the bottom comes up and keeps your bottle of beer cold. Apparently he drinks a lot of beer. Anyway, that is done well. I don't know if you're. We talk about the squatty potty because it's been out a long time, but.
My family owns 2 of those.
Okay. So bear with us if you're not familiar with the squatty potty.
Creamy poop of a mystic unicorn. Totally clean, totally cool. Don't eat soft They're good at pooping. But you know who sucks at pooping? You do. That's because when you sit on a porcelain throne, this muscle gets a kink in the hose and stops the Ben and Jerry's from sliding out smoothly. Is that a problem? I don't know. Are hemorrhoids a problem? Because sitting at this angle can cause hemorrhoids, bloating, constipation, and a buttload of other crap. And seriously, unicorn hemorrhoids? The glitter gets everywhere. But what happens when you go from a sit to a squat? Wow, his muscle relaxes and that kink goes away faster than Pegasus lane.
I like this.
So we said 90% of the world squats to poop. Okay, Americans don't. Okay, and so it's a way of dealing with this problem of this toilet we invented. Okay.
Sweet shirted Duke. Now your colon's open and ready for battle. That's because our bodies were made to poop in a squat, and now there's a product that lets you squat in your own. Introducing the Squatty Potty. No, Squatty Potty is not a joke. And yes, it will give you the best poop of your life, guaranteed. I don't just mean you bloated lords and hemorrhoidal rapists. I mean everyone. Kink, unkink. Kink, unkink. It's simple science, really. Can't get the last scoop out of the carton. With a Squatty Potty, you get completely eliminated. Spend too much time on the chamber pot. The Squatty Potty makes you go twice as fast for your money. I scream, you scream, and plop, plop, baby. Maybe you're sore from squeezing out solid globs of rocky road. The Squatty Potty gives you a smooth stream of flow that glides like a virgin swan. Plus, when you're done, it tucks neatly out of sight, thanks to its innovative, patented design. Truly a footstool fit for a constipated king. So, if you're a human being who poops on your butt, click here to order your Squatty Potty today at squattypotty.com. You wish you tried it years ago. And if you don't trust the prince, how about your doctor? Shark Tank, HuffPost, NPR, Men's Health, Howard Stern. He poops from his butt. They're all crazy about the Squatty Potty. Not to mention the 2,000 Amazon users who gave the Squatty Potty 5 stars, including the author of this moving haiku.
Okay, so you kind of got the idea, right? Okay. There's the official site. They also have one now that has a nightlight in it, so you don't trip. Okay. Affordable, $25. Tell you about it. So as an innovation that we want to share. Okay. Anyone else in innovation they want to Savannah?
Well, it's not, I don't overshare, but so like when my family did Dirty Santa this year, like somebody brought a squatty potty, and I guess my brother-in-law's brother wanted the squatty potty because it's easier to help potty train kids with. Really?
It's a step up.
Literally.
But bump.
Also, something else that I'd like to know on that. So my mom did it as a gag gift. So she gave one to my brother and my dad, and they love them. But she also gave them to my little cousins, and so gave one to them, and they're twin boys. They were born really premature. So Bo has cerebral palsy, and so this has like seriously helped him. And when he's going to therapy, like they're giving them out to all the kids that come, or whether it be CP or like super anxiety kids.
Wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah. It's really helped him.
Okay. But so if your grandparents have bran flakes in the cupboard, having a good bowel movement is really kind of the height of your day, and this helps. And it doesn't cost. I'm telling you, when you get to be my age. And so, $25. Now, did somebody look at that and say, why don't I get 3 of those encyclopedias? Nobody opens them anyway, right?
My friends will use just a regular stool, and that's like sold at Walmart.
And so what it does is it fits underneath, and so it's the same color. The nightlight adds, but Bed Bath & Beyond I know has them, but they went on Shark Tank as a way to money. Another one I want, I'm kind of running out of time with class, and that's the green box pizza. Do you have roommates that want to put the pizza box in the recycling bin? Why can't a pizza box be recycled? Why can't it go in with the cardboard? Because it has grease, and if you're trying to make paper, recycled paper, and you've got grease in there, you're going to have crappy recycled paper, whether it's for copy machine, and so it's going to be discarded anyway. So please throw your pizza box in the garbage and don't put it in the recycle bin. But this one,
this is Eco Incorporated's first product, the Green Box. The pizza box of the 21st century, released on U.S. Patent 7051919, manufactured from 100% recycled and recyclable corrugated cardboard. The top of the Green Box tears along 2 perforations and creates 4 serving plates. The bottom of the box breaks down into a convenient storage container, which is handy for leftover pizza and easy to recycle due to its compact size. The storage container fits conveniently into any size refrigerator. Eco Incorporated in the Green Box, saving the environment one pizza box at a time.
any thoughts?
Well, they even threw some of their commercials up for it.
This was they were just trying to get money at this point, and so.
So they would like.
They were on Shark Tank.
Is their idea to sell pizza boxes to like chains? Like
Absolutely. And so we patented the design, and now we want you to put your dominant. You know, they really want a large corporate.
Below your car. A flyby ballooning. Seated, covered. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing.
Okay, that's not innovation.
I thought, why didn't I think of that? Why is this not in the market already?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wright Laracy, co-founder of Greenbox. I used to work in finance.
I actually started in London in the emerging markets division, and in 2008, when the financial crisis was happening, I saw less opportunities within the field I was in. So I went back to MBA school. William Walsh and I were very good friends, and he showed me his patents for a convertible pizza box.
I love the idea from the beginning.
Ned Kensing got involved a little bit earlier than I did.
I decided to invest some money into it to become partners with Will. And Jen was starting her MBA at Columbia, entering us into business competitions.
One of the entrepreneurial programs that I got involved in at Columbia University was essentially an incubator program.
Okay, and then they went on Shark Tank, so blah, blah, blah. Okay. For this chapter, though, one of the big problems is unintended consequences, things that we didn't know happened. And you may be familiar, I've got a few minutes, with the Asian carp. Okay, the upper Mississippi River that's just about into the Great Lakes, which is going to decimate the Great Lakes when it hits. That's on the Illinois River.
When a particular population of fish in the Illinois River is starting.
Oh, run around that track. Behind the boat. Wow. Watch out. They're everywhere.
These are silver carp, the most notorious of the Asian carp family. Many believe the Illinois River has the densest population of silver carp in the nation.
Kind of ground zero on this invasion.
Asian carp were introduced to the United States in the 1970s to control algae in catfish farms in the South. In the
That's the most important thing. So they were imported to control algae in Mississippi and Louisiana into these large corporate catfish farms, and they escaped. And they made their way up the Mississippi and then up the Illinois. I just spent just a little bit more.
1980s, floodwaters allowed the carp to escape and infest the Mississippi River Basin.
When it comes to the river systems, if it's connected, if it's got a direct connection to the Mississippi or the Illinois River, it's going to have these fish in it.
Asian carp not only disrupt the food chain, push out native fish, are a nuisance to boaters, but they are also extremely dangerous.
Yeah, this is about an average size silver carp. This is one that can hurt you when it jumps.
Yeah, and they're going to decimate. Well, they have any of the fishing. The trick now is what to do. And it's a bony, carpy fish, and it's not a sport fish, and so they're hoping to make things out of it like cat food and serve it in some restaurants, but it's not a very good fish. If it makes to the Great Lake, it makes it to Lake Michigan, it'll destroy the sport fishing in Lake Michigan, as it has on the Mississippi and Illinois rivers.
How does it repopulate so much? Like,
They have no predators because they're not native. They're not native to this to the United States. So we brought this innovation in. Okay, it escaped, and now we have problems, which is not too unlike the Bradford pear.
We are here with Dr. Dwayne Almore, a wildlife specialist for OSU Extension, and we're out in the field behind a neighborhood, and you can see that there's a forest growing here almost.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what we're looking at?
These are calorie pear. A lot of people know them as Bradford pear.
Okay, it's what you see blooming white right now. It's the first thing to bloom. Okay, they were overplanted and they've escaped cultivation.
One of the more popular cultivars of the calorie pear.
Okay, and so people are planting Bradford pears, and what they don't realize is they're reseeding out in the wild.
Yeah, they're highly invasive in Oklahoma, and they're invading a lot of prairies and shrublands, and it has huge environmental consequences.
What makes them such an invasive species?
Well, a lot of the traits that we desire in them for a landscape plant, actually, they grow fast. They can grow in a wide variety of sites.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they produce abundant seed, which is bird dispersed.
Okay. So all this is just grown here because of birds primarily.
Yep.
And maybe have come from the neighborhood nearby from planted Bradford.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what happens when your field looks like this? How do we manage this?
Well, if you have just small seedlings, mowing or burning can kill those seedlings. But once you have established trees like this, they'll resprout. Mm-hmm. So
you come down, but they'll resprout. And so if you come out to the house tonight, you'll see there are 3 in full bloom. Okay, and the other homeowner that lives in my house refuses to have them cut down. Okay, they smell bad. They're bad trees because they're brittle. Ice storms will take them out. And what I try and do is I try and just cut pieces of them off each year, and to where eventually they'll hopefully die out. But the problem is my partner has the same issue that other people. Oh, they're so pretty. I want them. And so trying to convince people to cut them down is a real problem. So,
We know in like Eastwood subdivision, so it's like a really small backyard, and there was 2, we were here, one of them I went to like close to our house, and they like destroyed our foundation because like they
roots go away.
They rooted together, and so it's like a really big deal because they're all down.
Do they? Well, they need to be cut down.
Maybe you could convince them to plant dogwoods, because when I first got here, or like when I visited, I was like, oh, there's so many dogwoods around here, and then like I got a closer look at a tree, and I was like, that doesn't look like it. But dogwoods are really good for the soil, and they're like really good and sturdy, but they look almost identical.
Right. Or red buds that are native, but we had people. So again, this whole chapter is about these unintended consequences. So we brought this plant in and said, oh gosh, it's really pretty, it blooms, and it'll be okay, and then it's escaped cultivation. And so Roger says, before you have this innovation, this thing, this new plant, this new animal, whatever it is, you got to think about maybe what might happen. He just asks you to consider the consequences of this innovation.
So the carp previous video, we got catfish, and like somehow we got carp. We have no idea how we got them into our pond. We have a really nice pond, like you can swim in it and stuff. Well, the carp ruined it in 2 years. So my dad like goes out and feeds them and tries to get them all out, but there's no way we can get them all out. So it pretty much ruined our. We have like a.
You'd have to start over. You have to kill everything and start over.
It's not even like worth trying to do.
So again, someone goes to a foreign country, says, I got this cool plant, I bring it back, and it escapes cultivation, or this animal, whether it's snakes or birds or frogs or nutria. We have a history of lots of these things going wrong. Okay. Again, please come out tonight for dinner. Class Thursday, we're looking at having a milk taste testing on Thursday. Okay, and again, groups, if you know your 2 groups, please post to discussion if you know what you're doing.
Thomas, that deal starts tonight?
6 o'clock, but some people are coming later.
I would get off work at 9.